This is the Retirement Solution Podcast with financial advisor John Hicks, founder of J. Hagan Capital.
As you reach for your morning coffee, do you ever do pastries in the morning on the weekends, John? It's special Saturday.
Kids do pastries.
The kids
we do a lot of pancakes, things like that. But no, the kids are pastry people. But it's because they like the idea of a European.
I was about to bring out croissant.
Yes,
I do love a good croissant.
Anything that's got chocolate on it for breakfast, that's a huge thing. Nutella, that's the new thing. I say new. It's been a couple of years, but when they discovered that Nutella, which is basically like a hazelnut / chocolate spread, that you could slather that on anything. And it is considered acceptable. And that's what they do.
They are right. Listen to your daughters in this moment, John Hicks. They are correct in that assumption. Where all that fascination, did it start in France? We're going down the French path with this, everybody, this morning. Stick with us here.
It didn't start in France for them. I think that we were on a cruise and we were, I don't know, maybe in Mexico or something like that. But they had all the European stuff on the cruise line. And they were like, "Oh, Dad, this is fabulous." I'm like, "All right, well, enjoy it." We paid for it, so get your money's worth.
Right,
kids.
that Nutella is not for free. You better eat it all. I want to see the Clean Plate Club.
That's what I'm talking about.
Let's talk about France. I can't believe that it has taken me this long to bring up this conversation with you, because the unfolding and ongoing, get my popcorn, pull up my seat saga that is the heist at the Louvre is so good. It is so good.
When you break into what actually happened, it's amazing. I mean, it's almost like it will absolutely. It probably already has been cast. It's like the new Thomas Crown affair, right?
Has to. And the fact that it's true, though, this story.
Yes.
Have you
They're going to cast this thing. It's going to be one of the blockbuster movies of the century. Watch it happen.
When they cast this thing, they're going to have to find the hottest of Hollywood, because have you seen the mugshots of the guys that they have caught?
No, I have not.
Mwah. I mean, Hollywood good looking, these men. I can't believe it. I'm like, no way. These mugshots of these people. Ladies, if you're listening on HAS this morning, go ahead and just pop out your cell phone and look up the mugshots. You're welcome. I'm here for you.
It's like Ocean's 8 or whatever it is. Ocean's 7.
Ocean's 11, 12. This is Ocean 2024. All of them. Yeah. So, okay. Catch you up. The thieves that were disguised as construction workers, in case you haven't heard about this story, you've been under a bit of a rock, but we'll bring you up to speed. They were disguised as construction workers. They scaled a ladder up to the second floor of the Louvre in broad daylight. They stole over $100 million worth of crown jewels. That's the thing also I love. It was crown jewels that they stole. They're Hollywood good-looking robbers. They broke in. It's Paris. And this is where it gets real rich, everybody. The way that they were able to get past security cameras is because they guessed the password, and the password to the Louvre security cameras was, wait for it, it was Louvre.
Oh, no way. I don't know that I read that one. So they got into the computer system and got into the security system because the password of the Louvre was Louvre.
The thing is this, and I love the French. I do. I've been to Paris and I love it. But the French are known for being, they are known for being smug. They are known for looking down their noses. And I just want to be like, hey, guys, maybe on this one you can take us several humble seats, because
yes,
maybe you could have done better on this one.
You would think.
The lesson we can learn, that's what we like to do here on The Retirement Solution. What lessons can we learn? While we all want simplicity when it comes to our money, however, simplicity does not necessarily equal safe. And in fact, there are a lot of simple mistakes that a lot of us make when it comes to our savings, John, that I know you see all the time. And I want to talk about those. How do we unpack that and not be like the French here with bad safety measures?
Yeah, and they end up with $100+ million worth of not just jewels. Guys, this was history, right? They stole French history. When you think back about, Napoleon and then the long-standing French aristocracy, if you will, they were in 7 minutes able to take care of that, right? Yep. But I think that this is parallel to many of the warnings that are out there, or the outdatedness, if you will, of a lot of our safety nets in our retirement portfolios. And there's something really about that. So just like these guys were able to guess the password The thing of it is, I watch a lot of people out there guessing how much risk is in their portfolio. They do it all the time, or they're guessing on how much income that they can generate for retirement. Guys, there are two paramount things we have to understand.
Okay.
Number one is you have to know how much risk you're taking into retirement, because that amount of risk will either allow you to flourish in retirement, or you could find yourself really unhappy, like someone has just stolen your crown jewels, whether that's from inflation, or that's from a market careening off a cliff, or that's because of geopolitical issues, or another war, or whatever's going on in the Middle East, whatever's going on in Ukraine and in Russia. All these things, or just a changing of the guard in the administration. All of these things can have critical moments that really can impact our retirement if we don't know how much risk we have. Now, the Louvre, they thought they had safety precautions. And I know I talk to people all the time. They think there are safety precautions in their portfolios. And yet less than half, 49% of people have some form of safety nets on their portfolios, which leaves the majority, guys. It's a bare majority.
Still,
51% of us out there, that's 1 in 2, that's flipping a coin on, do you have protections in your portfolio? Because if you have let's say $1 million or $5 million, and all of a sudden the market does something weird. And by the way, November has not been a very exceptional month for the market thus far. And my guess is it's going to be more volatile as things go on. We're going to have earnings season coming up. We're going to have the end of the year, what many people call the Santa Claus rally, but the market's been pretty heated. So where are your safety nets? Because if you can't hold on to that $1 million, if now all of a sudden you only have 500,000 because you don't have safety nets, guess what? You may not be able to get retired and or stay retired. So that's number one. That is the biggest thing that we all need to know. How much risk do we currently have? Number two, how much income can that amount of savings create, right? There's only so much that we can stress a portfolio to do. We have to have it grow. We have to have it give us income. We have to have it be resilient and last for long periods of time. We have to let it accommodate for if we need a new car. We have to let it accommodate if we need a hot water tank. It goes on and on and on. And these are all very different stresses. So, and the longer we live in retirement, the more all of those stresses compound, right? Because there's more opportunity for a market to fall off a cliff at the same time that we need to replace the roof at the same time we need all tires on both cars. It just happens.
The expression, when it rains, it pours, comes from a very real place.
Yeah, but the idea is, so the income, where's it going to come from? Are you going to work part-time? Do you know when you're going to turn on your Social Security, right? Are you going to wait a little bit longer? Are you going to use the 62-70 rule, which is what we'll often use to kind of maximize without doing too much gamesmanship, but try to maximize how we can take out a Social Security? Do you understand your tax obligations? How is that going to affect your income? Are you figuring on getting a homestead exemption where you're not going to have to pay as many property taxes? Or are you going to relocate? All these questions stem into why so many people don't know their income. So the one thing that when I'm looking at the Louvre commentary, and the whole thing is a little bit of their systems were archaic, and they may have been a little cavalier, right? And I see both of those things that happen with retirement portfolios all the time. People are basically like, John, I'm good. It's gone up, real great. Well, we've had a really good 12-year period. Now, I have no idea what the next 12 years are going to look like, but I do know if you're just retired or you're about to retire, hopefully your retirement lasts a lot longer than 12 years. It may need to last 2 to 3 times that, right?
Yeah.
So the next 20 years or 30 years could be fabulous of what I'm hoping for, or they could be different. How are we protected and how are we going to derive our income? Those are the big two. Those are two things that any one of us can do today if we just go ahead and understand, hey, so if the crown jewels, if the history was stolen from France, essentially in broad daylight, guys, there were people out there taking selfies as these dudes were up there on a cherry picker hacking through the window of the Louvre, and they weren't caught that way. Isn't that crazy? So, and the concept is, when are we going to be stolen from? What does that mean? Well, when's the government going to change tax laws on us and they're going to steal from us that way? When's the market going to fall apart and that's going to steal from us? What happens if inflation gets crazy again because the administration wants to drop interest rates, but interest rates cause inflation to go up the other direction again? And instead of paying $6 or $7 for ground beef, we're paying 20. Or whatever it is, right? That's inflation. So all of those things are things that we need to protect from. I think learning from this French travesty, sacre bleu, right? I think learning from this is one of the greatest ways that we can truly be American, right? We can, not making fun of the French, but like they do things in tradition and history that sometimes is kind of, I think, a little ridiculous. We can learn from their failures because we should have the ability to adapt and evolve. And if you have not adapted or evolved your retirement portfolio for a while, let's take a look at the French and say, try that a second time. I do not think so.
If you are like so many suffering from spendophobia, we've got 7 steps that you can take to get over this and finally get to what you should be doing, spending your money with confidence in your retirement. Ladies and gentlemen, this is John Hicks, financial advisor, founder of J. Hagan Capital. I'm Heather Branch here with John to review this list of things, the things that we want to share with you, dear listener, because after decades of working and saving and sacrificing, should you not have a retirement where you can confidently spend your money? Of course you should. John?
Of course. Why would we not? Why would we toil and suffer as we're working? Only to save this money to not use it. Nobody is teaching us about how to go from a spender. After 30, 40 years of saving, you can't just flip a switch. It's a different paradigm. It's a different paradigm of thought. We've trained ourselves or been trained by the powers that be or the industry or whatever that, hey, you have to save all this money because, the government may not be there to help you out in the long run. Mm-hmm. And so we've gotten so used to saving, and when it's time to spend it, we forget. Yep. We forget that that's what we were doing the entire time for this exact purpose. I know.
So a recent survey found that nearly half of American retirees, suffer from spendophobia. It's the fear of spending their savings despite having enough money. So we're going to start off with some positive perspective. This is retirement blogger Fritz Gilbert on Morningstar talking about how he gives himself permission to spend.
In retirement, you're finally at the stage where you're free to do these things with your life, and you don't want to be constrained by that old frugalistic mentality. So it's a big transition. I would say it probably took me about 5 years. And the hack that I use, I set up automatic paychecks, basically. It comes out of a money market fund. I set it up every year end. I go through the numbers again. I restock this cash bucket, and I just set up a paycheck based on my safe withdrawal rate. I know I'm good to spend it.
Fritz has got a healthy perspective on his money.
He's doing everything exactly right. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? So he's not overanalyzing it. He didn't say I'm in there every single, month with my abacus in my Excel spreadsheet, figuring out exactly what I need to do. What he was saying is, hey, every year towards the end of the year, I set up these things automatically. So it stays in front of my mind. And at the end of each year, I just make sure that I'm doing things correctly, that everything is going fine. And that I'm, basically on path. Those are the main things. So, it's interesting because I had seen a little bit different statistics on this, but kind of similar.
Okay.
I think the statistic I had seen was nearly 62%. 62% of Americans age 62, 65 into retirement, they were afraid to spend the money they'd save. So this one's roughly half. The one that I saw was almost 60%. Yep. And there's a reason for it, guys. All of a sudden, when we decide we're going to punch that time clock for the very last time, and we have been accustomed to getting a biweekly paycheck or a weekly paycheck or a monthly paycheck or our commission checks or for whatever we've been doing, we've been conditioned to do that. And for many of us, once we stop working, some of us, we may even have a gap of time before that Social Security check even comes in, into the bank account.
Right.
And when we do that, we just start getting panicky. Even if we don't appear to be panicky, there's something internal in us that just says, ooh, I don't know that I like this feeling. What happens if? What happens if? What happens if?
Yeah.
Those are the things that derail all of the fun. Those are the things that absolutely erode all the joy out of being able to spend our time the way we want to.
Right.
And that's what we want to avoid. In my office, we actively seek every single day to stop people from suffering from, they call this spendophobia. My whole thing is like, I don't want any of my clients being the richest person in the graveyard. What I want them to do is to have a life of wealth that they can spend smartly, right? Judiciously on things that enhance or improve their life.
Yeah.
Spending time with grandkids is not an expense. It's an investment. Those are the things that I want people to think about. And sometimes we just have to change the way that we talk about things. The tongue is the rudder of our life. And we want to make sure that the things that are coming out of our mouth are joyful, that we're enjoying those things. So those are those things I always think about, Heather, when I hear these polls and these exercises. I just want to make sure people realize there are absolute ways to attack this mentally, emotionally, so that you can set yourself up to have the best potential retirement. But we got to start somewhere, right?
John and his team, they're here for you. Visit us at retirementsolutionshow.com or click on the links we've got posted in the show notes. John, Fritz mentioned, he said, this hack that I did for myself. So there was this article that I found I wanted to work through with you. 7 steps to help you transition from a saver to a spender. And I want to go through these points with you, the ones that you believe listeners should know about.
Yeah. So the first 2 are probably the 2 biggest ones. The very first one is make sure you have a written financial plan. Now, for me, a written financial plan has to accomplish 5 things.
Okay.
We have to understand how much protection our portfolio has. Basically, how much money could we potentially lose no matter what happens, right? So how much is at risk and how much of it's safe? Because it's in money market or it's guaranteed or it's in a guaranteed annuity or a guaranteed pension fund, whatever it is, we want to make sure that we understand. Number 1, protection. Number 2, income. How is that income going to come out to us? Is it written down? Can we verify that? Is it going to be consistent, or is it a hope, right? Is it a hope and a prayer? Well, I think that I might be able to work 10 hours a week. Thinking we can and being able to are very different. Yeah. So our income plan, we need to basically be ironclad. Basically, Social Security income, pension guaranteed income, guaranteed annuity income, and then a portion of what we pull from savings. Now, if you know that you do Airbnbs and rent houses and things like that, that income plan needs to be written down because we need to know every single year, do we expect that to maintain for the upcoming year? If the answer is yes, we're in good shape. If the answer is no, we probably need to shift gears, okay? So income plan is number 2. And the third one, I'm just going to hit the big 3. The third one is tax design. The biggest thing about having money and protecting it is that we can also protect it from overreaching tax environments, right? Right now, we may be in one of the lowest tax structures that we're going to see over the next 20 or 30 years. And the reason for that is, guys, our national debt is out of control. We're getting close to $40 trillion of national debt. We still do not have a balanced budget, and we have all kinds of bickering and fighting on both sides of the aisle in Congress. I don't expect them to make a good decision, no matter what side anyone's on. I don't expect them to make a good decision because these are decisions that were made decades ago or 50 years ago that we're now paying the price for now. I don't expect them to know how to fix it. So how much we make in retirement, how much we can spend is going to be based on what the tax rate is. Those are the big 3 things we have to deal with, and we need it written so that we can look at it consistently. Now, remember, the idea is how do we spend in retirement and feel comfortable? And that's where the second one comes in. The biggest thing is remind ourselves, money is a tool. Money was not the goal. Being the richest person from your bank account statement was never the goal. It's, hey, how do I accumulate enough so that I can confidently go out and do the things I want to do, spend my time with people I want to spend with whenever I want to, and do the things I'd like to do, right? So we want to make sure that we don't have that concept of just saving to save. We want to know, what is the outcome? It's a tool. Money's a tool. What is the outcome we want to spend it on?
But we're taught this idea of save this amount of money, and that's what's going to let you live the life you want to live. It's actually the exact opposite, right? Live the life you want to live, letting the money support you in that space. That's how you and your folks at J. Hagan Capital at least look at it.
Always. We worked to create this money so that then our money can work to create that livelihood for us in retirement. That's exactly the whole point. This is why you've heard me say on the show many times, I want our clients to front load retirement. I want our clients to start off understanding, let's see if we can knock off those bucket list goals that we all had at one point in time. Start your own bookstore in a coastal community. Take that Mediterranean 21-day Viking river cruise. Take the kids or the grandkids to Brazil, or take your pick, any gorgeous place. Take the family down on a Disney cruise, or take them to Disney, or rent a lake house for a whole summer. You don't have to necessarily buy the thing, although you can, but why don't you just rent it and let the family, as they have time, because everyone's busy, to come and see you on that rental property. Those are great things, and I want them to do it in the front end of the retirement. For 2 major reasons. Number 1, I want them to have that to look forward to. Number 2, I want them to give themselves permission to spend that money. Money's just a tool. We want to use it as a tool to create more happiness. And number 3, we want them to be able to have those experiences to talk about it for the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years. Because if they decide they loved it, they're going to ask themselves, honey, why didn't we do this a lot earlier? And my whole thing is correct. We have the money to do that. Let's absolutely do it. Money is it's a tool. So we want to invest it in the things that can provide the most happiness. Because the one thing I can tell you, the people that say that money can't buy happiness, they don't have any. If you really look at it, money can absolutely buy happiness because you're investing it in what will give you joy, even if it's just a gift to give to someone else, right? So when you do these things, when you have a written plan and you're paying attention to it, when you're going ahead and establishing those large goals in the very front, at the onset of retirement, I want you to spend those opportunities in the very front end. Why? We're as young as we're going to be. We're probably as healthy as we're going to be. And that way we can still have those opportunities. My parents didn't get that chance because my dad had a stroke before they were able to do those things. And I learned from that. And I don't want that to happen to anyone else. So those two things cause different stresses on a portfolio. So I want to make sure that we accomplish those two main things, right? And the other thing, Heather, that I really want to make sure that everyone understands when it comes to retirement, in our firm, when anyone comes in, chances are this is their first retirement. They've not done this before. Our staff, we have helped thousands of people go through the exact same exercises that we all go through that one time, but we've done it thousands of times collectively. Thousands and thousands of times. No two plans are exactly the same. So different people have different regrets. Oh man, I wish I had done this. We need to do a regret exercise. We want to make sure those things that you said, man, I wish they were more for the kids. I wish I could have done this. I wish we had the lake house when the kids were much younger. Do learn from that. Can you learn from those things and help your kids or your grandkids to give them those opportunities? Those are things that I promise you, it's not a monetary way to derive happiness, but it is absolutely a real way to use your money wisely to create a happiness environment.
Yeah. It's a tool. It's an idea of a life you want to live. And it really does. It boils down to having a plan in place. That's what's going to give you the spending confidence that you deserve. At J. Hagan Capital, they're building plans every single day. They are here to help you with your plan as well. Let's get started. Visit us at retirementsolutionshow.com and get to work helping you get over this spendophobia that you don't want to be suffering from in your retirement years. And what's the opposite of spendophobia? Spend-o-lot-of-a.
Spend a lot of
retirementsolutionshow.com is where to go to start the conversation. We've also got links posted in the show notes. There is tax preparation and there is tax planning. I don't know if you're familiar with the stand-up comedian Greg Warren. My husband Kyle and I, we just discovered him. He's great. This is a little snippet about the documents we have to keep track of.
I'm a constant disappointment to the DMV. Sir, do you have your social security card? I haven't seen that in 30 years. Sir, it's an important document. Well, then you guys shouldn't have printed it on a gum wrapper, okay? At least the passport people made a book out of their thing. It's got pages and a cover, and yes, I lost that one too, but I shouldn't have. Sir, do you have your birth certificate? My birth certificate? That document is 54 years old. I also don't have the Declaration of Independence.
My husband is guilty of having lost his birth certificate, and I'm so OCD organized, and I judge him. But there are a lot of things that it's like, how are we living in 2025 and papers like Social Security cards and birth certificates, how are they not in a more digitized, formalized world that we live in?
It's the truth.
And that's just the beginning of the things we need to keep track of, because we're getting ready for tax prep season, John, and all the documents we got to bring to that space. Let's talk about the work that you guys do, because you're not a CPA, you're not an accountant. You have CPAs.
Correct.
Do you have CPAs on staff at J. Hagan Capital?
Absolutely. Okay. So we have CPAs and tax attorneys both on staff.
Okay, got it.
But mainly because they have very different roles.
Okay.
Now, the craziest thing is we do not do a single tax return for our clients. That is just recording last year's information, recording history. We are actually vigilantly planning for the taxation going forward, whether it's the very tail end of this year, what things can we do before year end to hold on to more money and or to deploy it correctly? What are we going to do next year in January, February, March so that we pay fewer taxes even in April?
Right.
But for most of us, especially when we're talking about retirement in general, what are the ways that we can do to position ourselves to pay the least amount of total taxation when we start to live off of our savings, right? And those are big things to the tune of tens of thousands for almost anyone, to hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars in future tax savings. That's from planning. That is not from preparation. Right. That is actually from planning correctly.
And that's the difference of what you do. Again, you're not a CPA. You don't do tax returns for your clients. That's the difference of what you do at J. Hagan Capital versus what happens every year at the April 15th deadline. Planning versus preparation. And what we want to be doing for our retirement is we want to be planning. So Let's dive into the benefits that somebody should be getting out of the proper tax plan for retirement?
Yeah. So, I mean, if you think about it, there are so many ways that we can actually plan correctly to avoid or utilize certain things so that we don't pay extra taxes, whether it's today or in the future, right? So if we just think about our investment portfolios in and of themselves, the question is, where are our assets located? Okay. Are they in a taxable account, like our regular brokerage account or CDs at the bank? Or are they in a tax deferred account, which means that we have an IOU to the government, right? That means that we're deferring taxes now only to have a future bill that we have to pay. Or are they in Roth type accounts or tax-free accounts? Those are dollars that we've put the money in. We did not get a tax break, but everything it does in that account going forward is potentially tax-free forever, or for at least for as long as our lives. So the main thing we can understand is, what assets do we have in each one of those style of buckets? And is it the right one, right? Okay. So in the taxable accounts, that's where you can do tax loss harvesting, right? You can even do tax gain harvesting. People don't realize that the lowest capital gains rate is actually 0. And you can have household income of over $88,000 and still potentially be in the 0% capital gains rate. People are unaware of that. Yeah. And yet we apply that every single day to folks that have they have positions that they've had for a long time. They own John Deere stock or Caterpillar or AT&T or UPS or whatever it is. We can show them ways where we can use tax gain harvesting, where they can sell that position. They can even buy that company right back if they wanted to. But the point is, they sell that position and they lock in a 0 capital gain rate on those transactions. So basically, when you're looking at portfolio taxation strategies, they're pretty simple, right? Those are the things that any of us can do. We once met with a gentleman, and we made certain that he knew we liked all of his assets. We just didn't like the buckets that they were in. Okay. By reconfiguring the exact same assets, Heather, but putting different amounts in the taxable versus the tax deferred and the tax free. Yeah. We showed him that we expected to save over $930,000 going forward, simply by doing just rearranging the same assets. And these are things that his CPA just doesn't do. Right. It's not that he didn't have a guy. He had a guy, but that guy was worried about last year's 1040 or whatever it was. Right. He was just making sure they had the right tax forms. He wasn't paying attention to this stuff, and it wasn't that guy's job. But that's what we do. So on the portfolio side, there's all kinds of things we can do. And if you're very wealthy and you have really good established long-term legacy positions, there are all kinds of things that are currently available because of the OBA, the One Big Beautiful Bill Act, that allows us to potentially mitigate other taxes. So those are some of the big things in the front end when you're just talking about a portfolio. Okay. When it comes down to charitable giving, those are other things. So if we've done a great job saving and we feel that there's going to be a lot of money left over. Now, some of it we want to make sure that we're giving to our families and charities or families and so forth. But other things we might want to earmark for charities. We can use donor advised funds, charitable remainder trusts, slats, grats, bats and cats as well. I'm being facetious on those last two, but almost all of the lexicon of things that we can do, they're sometimes can be very, very favorable for getting tax breaks now and then allowing the money to grow and then being able to give a very large gift to charity. So those are things that we can do to knock off current tax rates, but we can still have long-term effects that are great for our families. Okay. So when you look at those types of things when it comes to charity, that's also big. Okay. Got it. The estate planning piece of the puzzle is of primary importance to me, right? Because when we're typically in our office, we're dealing with people that have saved very well. We're talking millions of dollars, multi-millions of dollars, 10s and 20, lots of money. And the whole thing is we would expect, unless something horribly goes wrong, we would expect not only them to be taken care of in their retirement, but their kids are probably going to be taken care of. Even their grandkids are going to be pretty good. The question is, can we make sure that we protect it from government, overreach? Can we make sure we're protecting it for the long run from divorces in the family, from healthcare issues, from all those things? And that's where we really want to make sure that we have our trust established correctly, right? So these are typically estate planning ideas, whether we're using lifetime giving trusts, right? Or whether we're using dynasty trusts, whether we're using deferred sales trust, whether we're actually implementing this for spousal continuation trusts, right? Where one spouse passes away, we want to be certain that trust accommodates the income needs for that surviving spouse the entire time. And at their passing, then the assets get shuffled around. That is also of primary importance if you've ever had, if you have a joint family. If you were previously married and have children on one side, trust designs are the best ways to make sure that your wishes are taken care of correctly, right? I can't tell you how many times people come in and they came from, it was a second or a third marriage. And there are kids out there that feel like, unfortunately, that wasn't what their dad had wanted. They wanted something different. Unfortunately, without trust documents or without the proper things in place, unfortunately, we don't know that, right? So in our firm, we want to make sure that we've thought through that. And we also want to review things too. A lot of times people say, well, this is what I want to do. And that was exactly right at that time and date that they did that.
Right.
But 5 or 6 years down the road, things change, or there's different circumstances, or new grandkids come into the fold, or there's a death or a birth. And we want to make sure that we reviewed those documents so that everyone is accommodated, right?
Okay.
So those are important too. So all of these things, believe it or not, even though it sounds like estate planning and it sounds like all these things, it all relates to taxes.
Okay.
It's how we're going to be taxed now, in the future, or the next generation. Right? Because the one thing that I have said consistently over and over and over again is the fact that our government cannot maintain itself at the current tax rates. We cannot. We will go under.
Right.
Now, that is not a joke. That is not doom and gloom. That is just simple math. And when it comes down to it, two things will have to happen. We can either grow ourselves out of this problem and reduce a tremendous amount of the money we're spending. Now, what would we spend the most on? Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, and interest on the national debt. No one really wants to reduce those.
Right.
So that's number one.
Okay.
The only other thing we can do, Heather, is raise tax rates.
Yep.
Raise tax rates is the only other way to do it. And if you go back to when we were much more solvent in the 1960s, the lowest tax rate was 36%. That was the lowest. The highest was 90%. Now, if we went back to that tax rate, would we fix a lot of our problems? Yes. But would that completely destroy a lot of our ideas of the money that we've earned and we would like to live on and give to our family? Would it destroy that concept? Yes. So a lot of the things and why we're talking about trust planning when we're dealing with taxes is for that exact reason. We want to safeguard the money correctly so that we have access to it. But at the same time, when something happens to us, we want to make sure that the government gets the least legal amount based on what we can orchestrate, right? Okay. And laws will change, and we want to ebb and flow with that. But it's so important to the point to where our incomes, our assets are all fundamentally based around how are we going to be taxed on that, right?
Right.
The current environment allows us to do a lot of different things, but we have to seek it out, right? So when this gentleman said, hey, I don't have all this stuff, I don't have it in gear, when it comes down to you thinking about taxes, ask yourself, are you being proactive, paying the least amount today, the least amount over time, or the least amount cumulatively? If you don't have an answer to one of those questions, you probably don't have the right plan.
Well, John and his team, they're here to help you get answers to these questions and put it all into a plan that works for you and the years ahead. RetirementSolutionShow.com is our website and where to go to begin the conversation with John and his team at J. Hagan Capital. If you take nothing else away from this conversation except for this one understanding, when it comes to your taxes, you do not have to just take what Uncle Sam's gives you. You can utilize strategies to work to reduce your future taxes and what you might have to owe. At J. Hagan Capital, they are here to help you understand what strategies might work for you and your plan. Let's get to work on that. Visit us at retirementsolutionsshow.com, or again, click on the links we got posted in the show notes. So the government shutdown's been a good time.
Oh, awesome. It didn't change that much. There were a whole bunch of flights that I was potentially going to have to be on that got changed.
I personally don't know anybody that's employed by the federal government, so I can't speak to how big of a deal it was or was not. In Louisville, there are not a ton of federal employees, so hopefully you did not feel the strain of it. Yeah,
so one of the things I did notice, though, is that even though we had the government full shutdown, that did not stop us from racking up huge bills over that period of time. No. Isn't that amazing?
Did the national debt just come to a screeching halt? No, that number is still flipping.
That's right.
What the perspective I want to talk to you about is how we saw Wall Street react. Of course, there was volatility when the shutdown began. Then there was Wall Street celebration when the truce was announced by Democrats and Republicans. Here is portfolio manager Jason Katz on Fox Business.
You have this $6 trillion of cash on the sidelines. And I know we talk about that all the time, but there is definitive reinvestment risk as rates go lower. But there's another factor at play. The vast majority of investors have underperformed the market, professionals in particular. So even though they hate on this rally, every time we get a dip, what do we see? They come in, swoop in, and buy it.
The government shutdown is the news right now. But if you go through a 20, 30-year retirement, some people 40 years of retirement, all kinds of things are going to happen over in Washington, up in Wall Street. Yeah. We want plans that are going to sustain so that we can not feel the effects of what's going on in those neighborhoods. We want to be just continuing on, John. So how do you help people build plans like that?
We had the government shut down from October to, mid-November nearly. Mm-hmm. And that is just the first phase. Chances are we're going to have another government shutdown in January. They didn't pass anything that was miraculous. So chances are in January, we're going to have to do this stuff again when it comes down to look at the budget structure. They only did a short-term fix. If we have plans that are basically orchestrated and laid out in the sand, every time that the tide comes in or every time the wind blows hard, it's going to shuffle that sand up. Guys, we're always supposed to have foundational plans in the rock, right? We want to make sure that we have a solid foundation to do things on. And when it comes to retirement, it's absolutely almost just the same as it is biblically. Make sure that you have your foundation established. Make sure you have it solid. So what would keep us from being able to retire? There are essentially two major things. Well, there's a third one. We'll talk about that one too. The three major things that can stop us from being retired, to either get to retirement or being retired. Number one, we lose all of our money, right? So we have to have protection to preserve what we have, first and foremost. Number two, we can't either retire or stay retired if we don't have stable income. We need income coming in that we can count on. It needs to be reliable. Now, so a lot of doomsdayers are out there saying, well, the government doesn't have enough money to pay for Social Security. It's not going to pay for Social Security. I don't buy that at all. The government, if you are nearing retirement age, if you're 60 to older, I really don't think that the government's going to change too much your retirement if you've already elected to receive it. Okay. If you're already getting your check from the government or you're going to, I think it's going to be very hard for them to change that on you. Now, if you're not in a position where you can elect for Social Security yet, or you choose not to, they can change anything and make it retroactive to, let's say, the beginning of a year, and then you're going to deal with the new system. This has happened historically. There's precedent for this. Yeah. There's precedent the way they change federal pensions. There's precedent the way that corporations do it, and there's certainly precedent with the current administration on making things retroactive. Mm-hmm. So when you think about that, do I think that could happen? It absolutely could. Yep. So again, when we're thinking, how do we make sure that we're not going to always be listening to the headlines? How do we just make sure we just tune it out where it's just a bunch of noise, right? We want it to almost just like fade into the background and not even pay any attention. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, retirement is a period of time when we may not be working 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 hours a week, and we have more time to look at the headlines. And unfortunately, if it bleeds, it leads. Right? They're out there purposefully to try to get us with those storylines that scare the snot out of us, because then we want to read more, right? So the thing that we have to do is we have to understand, where does our protection come from? Yep. Where's our income going to come from? Those are the big two, because here's the biggest thing for me. Volatility will get worse as things get worse. It has happened this way since the dawn of time, whether you're talking about Holland or the Dutch and tulips, as it goes hyperbolic when you look at how the Roman grain industry happened and it changed all the ability for them to do pasta. Literally, all of these things, they cause massive upheavals in short-term markets. In the long-term markets, not quite as much. It's just a blip on the map that if you're going through that moment in time, it's one thing, but it's how it sustains. So what we want to do is we want to establish how to make sure that none of those headlines cause us to do dumb things. Okay. Because that volatility is why people call their advisors. It's the volatility. It's not the actual underlying macroeconomy usually. It's not the underlying situation for their life. Mm-hmm. It's the fear of that headline. So the greatest thing you can do is know how much protection you got. So basically put your worst case scenario in there. Let's say that, John, I don't want to lose more than 15 to 20% of my life savings. That's a lot for me, but I certainly don't want to lose more than that. Do you know that there are hundreds, if not thousands, of different strategies you can utilize to put safety nets, controls, buffers, barriers, guardrails on your portfolio to ensure that you do not lose more than a comfortable amount. And not all of these are 20 and 30 and 40 years old. Many of them are, but some of them are pretty new.
Yep.
Some of them have only been around 7, 8, 9 years. They've been around long enough for us to have tested them a little bit. But some of these things are fabulous, because if we just hold on to what we got, we can live to fight another day.
Right.
And the second thing is we have to have a sustainable income, 3 to 5. Those are the minimum, guys. 3 to 5 sustainable income sources that we expect to last for 5 years or longer.
Okay.
Now, for most of these things, we want to establish one where they last as long as our retirement. So if we have Social Security, hopefully we're going to have that from now until the time we're gone, right? If we have a pension, hopefully we've elected, whether it's a 10-year period, certain 20-year for your lifetime, for your and your spouse's lifetime, those are guarantees. As long as those insurers stay in business for your pension, we don't have to worry about those too much, right? Those are also big. Now, annuities can do the same thing. If you do not have a pension, annuities, and historically, guys, I don't really love the concept of an annuity. It's just a tool. But many of the times, interest rates were really not very good. You could not get good rates. And now we see that it probably higher interest rates we're going to see next year, or the year after, and the year after. Some of those annuity rates are better than the actual pensions that you can get from your employer.
Right.
So you just got to do the math on it. You got to find out which one is better than the other,
Right.
but they're essentially the same thing. A pension basically is an annuity, whether that's good or bad for your situation. Then on top of that, what other assets do you have that produce income? Do you have Airbnbs? Right? Are you planning on selling stuff on Etsy? Do you love doing flea marketing and antiquing, where you know how to take that old Queen Anne furniture and sand it down and make it look brand spanking new?
Don't you work with somebody, Jay Hagan, that does that? They have a whole new 6-figure income because they go around flea marketing and sell this stuff?
Laser engraving. They do laser engraving on like bourbon barrels and everything, and they can laser engrave anything. You give them a picture, they can put it on there. You just want really good font, they can put it on there. But they go around these antiques and all this stuff, and then they find really cool pieces, and they will engrave them in different things or make intricate design in it, and they make so cool. 6 figures a year.
I love that.
And in the beginning, he's like, John, I think about retiring a little earlier. I'm like, well, sure, you can do that. What are you going to do with your time? He said, I'm making more money on my side gig
Come on.
than I am. And I was like, you got to be kidding. And it is not a joke. He made about almost $75,000. He'd been in manufacturing for a long time. He'd moved up. He was doing really well. And he realized, my goodness, I get to spend more time with my wife and the fam. We get to travel to all these places, and he makes more money. So it was crazy. Amazing. And then on top of that, as now a small business owner, he plays on the different side of the tax code. As an LLC, he gets different opportunities. We all get it if we're small business owners. We get the opportunity to do different types of honest expenses correctly. We get travel done slightly differently for going for work. We get to expense legitimately so many things that we would have typically consumed just because we like to have it around the house.
That's a great tip. If you've got a side hustle in retirement, come and talk to John and his team at Jay Hagan. Let them show you.
Try to make money on it.
You could save so much legitimately because you're a business person now. Yeah. Continue, please.
It's the truth. And so the other side of the tax code is unbelievably beneficial. So when you think about all those things, we just got to make sure that the volatility does not cause us to make poor decisions.
Right.
But if we have our income and our safety nets in place, you typically will not blow things up. And you want to make sure you're analyzing that at least once a year.
Okay.
Not all the time, but at minimum once a year.
Visit us at retirementsolutionshow.com, or again, click on the links we got posted in the show.
Thanks for listening to the Retirement Solution Podcast with John Hicks. Begin the conversation about your savings plan with John and the team at Jay Hagan Capital by visiting retirementsolutionradio.com. Be sure to listen to John's radio show, The Retirement Solution, Saturdays at 8 a.m. and Sundays at 9 a.m. on News Radio 840 WHAS.
Jay Hagan Capital Incorporated is not licensed in all 50 states. To find out if Jay Hagan Capital Incorporated is licensed in your state, please call 502-690-5635. Jay Hagan Capital Incorporated is not affiliated with nor endorsed by the Social Security Administration or any other government agency and does not provide legal or tax advice. By contacting us, you may be provided with information about insurance and annuity products offered through Jay Hagan Capital, LLC, NPN number 1882794.